Page 73, Lonesome. On page 72, they're showing you diminished triads. See, before we had augmented. Augmented was raising the top note a half a step, so from C to here. Well, now we have diminished triads. Diminished triads are a little more than that. A diminished triad, you start out with a regular triad, and then you make it a minor triad by lowering the third note. That is a minor triad. Now to diminish it, we take the top note and lower it one note here. And that is a diminished triad. Again, produces some very interesting harmonies. Generally, you'll see these used a lot in pieces that are in minor, like A minor or C minor or whatever. They use a lot of diminished stuff. And of course, jazz. So you have some things, and there is a minor diminished triad etude over on page 72. I'm not going to go over that. You can go over that yourself. Do it one hand at a time for a while if you have to, because of all those accidentals. All they're doing is telling you the minor, the diminished, and then the minor again. That's really all this triad is doing. I want to talk about Lonesome. Lonesome, we got lots of dotted rhythms. This could be a blues piece. I don't know if it really is. I mean, the author of the book wrote the piece, so I don't know if they intended it to be blues or not. There's no notes or anything to tell me, but it's titled Lonesome. And to me, that's, well, it might be like a blues piece. They've written with the dotted rhythms, it's this. So for the counting, we'll count it real slow. 1 E and 2 E and 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 1 E 2 E and 1 E and 2 E and 1 E and 2 E and 1 E and 2. So you just have to work those rhythms out real slowly. Another way of doing this, if you're still struggling with it, give you another idea of another approach, would be to break it up and count eighth notes instead of quarter notes. So in this case, because there's 2 quarter notes in a measure, that makes 4 eighth notes in a measure. We're just going to count to 4, and we're going to count eighth notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So a quarter note's going to get 2 of those. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. We're eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 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 2 and 1. You break it down real slow like that, then you get the relationship of each note to each note, because then you can gradually speed it up. 1, 2, and 1 and 2, 2, down. 2, 1, 2. And you work it out that way. Again, you can line up the notes between the 2 hands and just make sure the hands are coordinated together, because the left hand's just playing quarter notes. 1, 2, 1, 2. And try and get the right hand notes where they go based on the quarter notes. 1, 2. So that's the rhythm. You work that out. Then let's take a look at the fingering just a little bit. You can use the fingering they're showing you for the first line is fine. Not crazy about a little finger on a black note, but sometimes you got to do it, and that's fine. But the second line with all these repeated notes, now they're showing you the 5-3. I suggest you do this fingering. A 5 on the first C, then a 4, 3, 2, 3. 4, 3, 2, 3. Okay? Okay, like so. And then on the next measure, those 2 C's is a 3, 4. And then a 3 on the A, bring the A down, the third finger down. Don't bring the A down, it's fine where it is. And then 2 on the G, and then a 1. See, they got a 1, 1. Now, look at the last measure of the second line in the right hand. You got a 1, 1. They did that intentionally because you'll notice there's no phrasing in this. Okay, you feel the phrasing like you feel everything else. That leads me to believe this really is a blues piece. It's a very feeling piece. And by using the thumbs on both of these, it forces you to break the phrase. In other words, the first eighth note ends a phrase, and the next one begins a phrase. So, starting with the measure before, it's here. And that tells me that that's what they're doing. So if you take a pencil, you can put in your phrase markings, and you just have a phrase end at the first eighth note and begin on the second. We don't have to finger it that way to get that though. So you can use the second finger on the first eighth note and then lift up and then down for the E. In the left hand, you just got the chords. Use whatever fingering is comfortable for you. All right, if you want to use 5, 3, 1 on all of them, it's up to you. I tend to use a 4, 2, 1 on the third measure. Then look at the last two measures. In both hands, we have tied notes. So in the left hand, you're just going to play the chord and you hold it down to the end of the piece. Right, it's tied. The right hand, you're going to play the first 3 notes, and then you're going to hold the C down to the end. So it's that. And then to the end of the piece. So you have to count so you know when the end of the piece is. Assuming you're doing that, then you'll know when to lift the hands up. And if you're not counting, you don't know when the end of the piece is, you don't know when to lift the hands up. I can't help you. I would suggest go ahead and learn this exactly as it's written. 1 E and 2. But this to me is a blues piece. So once you can play it exactly as written, then I suggest you go back and make it a blues piece. And that means treat all these dotted rhythms as even eighth notes, like so. And then swing them, because that's really what blues is about. It's very close to what's written here, except the short notes are not quite as short as the 16th note. They're just a hair longer is all it is, and you feel it. So I would encourage you eventually, especially if you want to play this for somebody, play it as a blues piece. Feel it. 2, 4 time. I'll give us 4 counts. Let's play it together. So the 1, 2, ready, go thing. All right. 1, 2, ready, and go-y, and off.